Hello everyone. This is the first video in the lecture series of the Limitation Act 1963. In this video, we will be covering the introductory portion of the Limitation Act. इस वीडियो में हम इंट्रोडक्टरी पार्ट कवर करेंगे लिमिटेशन एक्ट का. Herein we will be covering the history of Limitation Act, what does the Limitation Act actually means, and what is the objective principle behind it, the maxims concerned, and when the plea of limitation can be taken, who can take it, and some other scenarios. This session will be useful to both the beginners who are new to the subject as well as to those who have studied the Bare Act of limitation before. But there might be some concepts which may or may not be new to you, but of course this lecture will be useful to you as well. So stay tuned for the whole lecture and let's begin. So basically, firstly, what the act actually means. The act actually prescribes a time period within which after which a suit cannot be brought in a court of justice to enforce the right. So एक टाइम पीरियड प्रिस्क्राइब है जिसके अंदर रहते हुए ही आप अपने कोर्ट ऑफ जस्टिस या कोर्ट के समक्ष वाद ला सकते हैं या फिर अपील या एप्लीकेशन कर सकते हैं. लिमिटेशन एक्ट में एक शेड्यूल दे रखा है पीछे, है ना. उस शेड्यूल में कुछ टाइम पीरियड प्रिस्क्राइब है एज पर रिलेटिंग टू सूट्स, अपील्स एंड सम एप्लीकेशंस. सो उस टाइम पीरियड में स्पेसिफिकली जो टाइम पीरियड दे रखा है एंड आफ्टर अप्लाइंग द रूल्स ऑफ लिमिटेशंस विच विल बी सीइंग फर्दर, आप उसमें उस टाइम पीरियड के अंदर ही सूट ला सकते हैं. What I just said is there is a schedule appended to the Limitation Act, and there has under that schedule there has been given some time period for suits, appeal and applications, after which during the time period which you can bring a suit, appeal or application in a court of justice. Of course, after adjusting it or after computing that period according to the further provisions of Limitation Act, which we'll be covering in the other lectures. So this act is a procedural law. As we know that there are two kinds of law, substantive and procedural. This is actually a procedural law. Lex Fori, it is a law of the country. That means this Limitation Act is the Lex Fori law. The construction of this act should be made strictly, that is, this act should be interpreted strictly. In the upcoming slides, we will be having a separate section which deals with the construction of this act. Overall, right now, just remember that in general, the construction should be made strictly. Now the Limitation Act is the Act number 36 of 1963. बहुत सारे बच्चों को confusion होता है what is this 36 number of 1963 or whatever. So actually this, whenever all the acts has been passed in 1963, the Limitation Act was the number 36th of the year 1963. जितने भी एक्ट 1963 में आए थे उसमें से जो लिमिटेशन एक्ट का जो नंबर है वो 36 है, यानी 36 नंबर का एक्ट जो था वो लिमिटेशन एक्ट था. Now the history of law of limitation in India. At first, the first attempt which was made to bring a universal or uniform law of limitation in India was made in year 1859. The act which came into force was in year 1862. After that, the act was of 1871, 1877, 1908, and finally the current act, which is of 1963, was brought into force after making amendments and after coping up with the lacunas which the previous acts has. And then this act, which is the present act, came into force, which received the assent of the president on 5th October 1963. Now the object of this act. The object is not to create or define a cause of action. Basically, what it actually prescribes is a period of limitation within which the existing rights can be enforced in a court of law. Note the point, existing rights. When a person has got a right, then he must come to court to access, and that right has been violated, then he must come to court within a limited time period which has been prescribed in this act for the enforcement of that right. This is what Limitation Act actually wants. So it is based on basically two maxims. These are the Latin maxims. One is interest republic ut sit finis litium. That is, the interest of the state requires that there should be an end to litigation. That is, there should not be a constant state of uncertainty or doubt or suspense. You might have heard the phrase that हमेशा किसी के सर पे तलवार नहीं लटकनी चाहिए लिटिगेशन की या फिर केसेस की, कि भैया वो हमेशा इस डर में बना रह रहा है कि भैया अब कोई व्यक्ति अपना राइट मेरे पास अगेंस्ट मेरे अगेंस्ट सूट ला सकता है या कुछ ला सकता है. अगर कोई व्यक्ति अपनी राइट्स को लेकर विजिलेंट यानी जागरूक नहीं है, तो एक सर्टेन टाइम पीरियड के बाद जो सामने वाला पर्सन है वो रियली मतलब रेस्ट कर सकता है कि हाँ ठीक है, अब इसके बाद मुझे परेशान नहीं किया जाएगा. सो इसी कंसिडरेशन पे जो हमारा नेक्स्ट मैक्सिम है, विच इज़ विजिलेंटिबस नॉन डॉर्मेंटिबस जुरा सवीनियट, दैट इज द लॉ, this means that the law aids the vigilant and not the one who sleeps over his rights. That is, जो vigilant है हमारे अपने rights के बारे में, जो जागरूक है अपने rights के बारे में, law उसकी मदद करता है. The law actually helps those who are vigilant about their acts, their rights, and knows when to exercise them. The law actually helps those and not who sleeps over their own rights. The principle also means that principle is to forbid suits being brought after a certain period. And the principle is, as again, the law aids the diligent and not the indolent. This act has been founded on public policy and expediency, and it aims to ensure private justice, suppress fraud and perjury, quicken diligence, and prevent oppression. Further, you might have heard this. There are two objectives which the Limitation Act often concerns itself with. Firstly, that to quiet long possession and extinguish stale demands, and it lays down definite rules of law, giving the people for whose benefit they have been framed a guarantee that after the lapse of certain period of time they may rest in peace and rely upon titles or other rights they have acquired. जस्ट लाइक आई सेड प्रीवियसली, अगर एक टाइम के बाद लोग शांति से बैठ सकते हैं, उनको एक गारंटी रहती है कि अगर एक टाइम पीरियड ख़त्म हो जाता है उसके बाद उन्हें टेंशन लेने की ज़रूरत नहीं है. दे आर नॉट रिक्वायर्ड टू पैनिक and they can easily rely upon whatever title or right they have. These laws are meant to see that the parties do not resort to the dilatory tactics but seek their remedy promptly. The important word is there, they have to seek their remedy promptly and quickly. The idea behind this is that every legal remedy should be alive for a legislatively fixed period of time. Another phrase which is often heard is this: limitation laws are the statutes of repose, peace and justice. Repose means विश्राम देना, किसी चीज़ को stop करना. So why are they known as repose? Because they extinguish stale demands and quite long titles. Why they are known as peace? Why they secure peace? Because as it ensures security of rights. And they secures justice because it ensures a limited time period within which a certain right may be enforced, as by the lapse of time evidence in support of the rights may have been destroyed. Now this topic further involves that what reasons are given in support of the existence of law of limitation. So there are actually three reasons which have been given in the Halsbury laws of England which support the existence of law of limitation. Firstly, that long dormant claims should have often have more cruelty than justice in them. When there are claims which are long pending, they often are more cruel and rather than serving justice. So it is unfair that a defendant should have a claim hanging over him for an indefinite period. The second reason is given as that the defendant might have lost the evidence to dispute the stale claim. That is, loss or destruction of documents, fading of memory, etc. Then the third reason which is given is that the person with good cause of action should pursue them with a reasonable diligence. If you have got any good cause of action, then you must exercise that right, as I said earlier, within a specific time period with due diligence, promptly. And if some person or if the conduct of the plaintiff or a person is not prompt to enforce his right, then he should lose them. So these were the reasons which were given in the support of the existence of law of limitation. Now, this is also a phrase that Limitation Act extinguishes remedy and not right. What डज इट मीन्स कि लिमिटेशन एक्ट रेमेडी को ख़त्म करता है, हमारे अधिकार या हमारे राइट को ख़त्म नहीं करता है, जस्ट रेमेडी को ख़त्म करता है। इसका एक एक्सेप्शन भी है जो हम फर्दर देखेंगे। बेसिकली व्हाट दिस फ्रेज मीन्स दैट इट डज नॉट क्रिएट और एक्सटिंग्विश राइट्स, it does not create or extinguish rights. It just lapse of time does not have any effect or does not destroy the right of a person. Remember, right and remedy are two different things. Remedy जो हम कोर्ट ऑफ लॉ में एक्सरसाइज करके कोर्ट से मांग रहे हैं, और राइट यानी उस रेमेडी को मांगने का हमारा राइट। So basically the law of limitation does not extinguish the right, it extinguishes the remedy. It does not touch the question of a person's right to any debt, to damage, to goods, to persons, to property, etc. It is only the remedy by the suit that is barred and not right. The right actually continues to exist. The remedy has been barred by the suit of law of limitation, but the right actually exists, and if there are any some other lawful means for the recovery or for the enforcement of that right, then that means can be exercised. The law of limitation does not apply to that other lawful means. The concept of time barred debt cannot be extended to proceeding outside the court. That is, within the court, if remedy can be exercised, then it has to be brought within a certain time period which has been prescribed by the law of limitation. Extra time barred debt or debt which has been time barred can be invoked outside the court. Thus, the right to a barred debt does not ceases to exist. It is a good and valid consideration for a fresh contract. Now here comes another thing, that is, आपका राइट तो एग्जिस्टेंस में है, तो क्या डिफेंडेंट अपना वो राइट डिफेंस के रूप में ला सकता है? वेदर कैन द डिफेंडेंट ब्रिंग सच राइट इन एज अ डिफेंस in a suit by the plaintiff. So what exactly it means that, for example, if there is a defendant in a suit, then he can set up his right of defense, though he could not have enforced the right by way of suit. There is no limitation against the defense. Thus, if a defendant is entitled to resist on the ground of fraud or undue influence or misrepresentation a claim made against him in respect of a transaction, although a suit by him to set aside the transaction on the ground of fraud or undue influence or misrepresentation may have been time barred, still he can raise this as a defense. What I just said is that, मान लो अगर कोई डिफेंडेंट है, अगर वो ये कहता है कि भैया मेरे साथ फ्रॉड हुआ है या फिर अनडू इन्फ्लुएंस या किसी कपट के कारण मैं अपना ये जो भी बात प्लेंटिफ ने कही है वो सही नहीं है, और जो भी हुआ है सब कुछ किसी फ्रॉड के या मेरे मिस रिप्रेजेंटेशन के अंदर रहते हुए करा है, तो ये बात वो डिफेंस के तौर पे ला सकता है। भले ही इस बात के कारण अगर मान लो वो उसे सेट असाइड कराना चाहता, जो वो कह रहा है उसे सेट असाइड कराना चाहता और उसके लिए अगर सेपरेटली सूट लाता तो हो सकता है वो सूट ना ला पाए बिकॉज टाइम बार्ड हो गया है, लेकिन इसे वो डिफेंस के तौर पे ले सकता है अगर प्लेंटिफ ने स्पेसिफिक परफॉर्मेंस का सूट ला दिया है तो। आई होप यू गॉट दैट। नाउ द एक्सेप्शन टू द बाउ रूल विच इज़ दैट लिमिटेशन बार्स द रेमेडी नॉट द राइट। सो द एक्सेप्शन इज सेक्शन 27 of the Limitation Act. That is, in a suit for possession of any property, the termination of the limitation period not only remedy but also the right is extinguished. यानी जहाँ पर आप possession का सूट ला रहे हो प्रॉपर्टी का और वहाँ पर अगर आपने विद इन टाइम पीरियड में नहीं लाया है तो आपके सिर्फ रेमेडी नहीं राइट भी ख़त्म हो जाता है। तो यहाँ पर और इसी केस में क्योंकि आपका राइट भी ख़त्म हो गया तो आप यहाँ पर डिफेंस के तौर पे भी डिफेंडेंट वो बात नहीं ला पाएगा जो वो सूट के तौर पे नहीं ला पा रहा है। Now, this is the construction of limitation, statute of limitation. If the language of the law is unambiguous, that is, if the language of the law is clear, then as said earlier, the law of limitation should be interpreted in a strictly manner, should be construed strictly. But if the language of the law is ambiguous, that is, if there is an alternative construction which is possible, so such interpretation or such construction should be made which actually favors the right to proceed or right to sue rather than which bars the right. यानी अगर एक्ट की लैंग्वेज क्लियर है तो हम उसको जैसा है स्ट्रिक्टली इंटरप्रेट करेंगे, लेकिन अगर एक्ट की लैंग्वेज ही क्लियर नहीं है, हम दो तरीके की इंटरप्रिटेशन निकाल पा रहे हैं, तो हम ये देखेंगे कि किस इंटरप्रिटेशन से सामने वाले व्यक्ति का जो राइट है सूट लाने का या वाद लाने का वो प्रोटेक्ट हो रहा है, बल्कि हम ये नहीं देखेंगे कि क्या उसका राइट बार हो रहा है। हम ये देखेंगे कि किस इंटरप्रिटेशन से वो अपना राइट एक्सरसाइज कर पा रहा है, दैट टू इफ द लैंग्वेज इज ambiguous. Now, the burden of proof as to plea of limitation. So basically the burden of proof lies upon the plaintiff, the onus of proof lies upon the plaintiff. मतलब जहाँ पर ये कहा जा रहा है कि भैया जो पीरियड है लिमिटेशन का वो कोई भी सूट लिमिटेशन के पीरियड में लाया गया है नहीं, ये प्लेंटिफ को साबित करना पड़ेगा। और अगर ये प्लेंटिफ ये बात साबित कर देता है देन द ओनस ऑफ प्रूफ शिफ्ट्स टू द डिफेंडेंट दैट फॉर सम रीजन the period prescribed is not that which has been contemplated which has been contended by the plaintiff. बेसिकली हम प्लेंटिफ पे बर्डन ऑफ प्रूफ देते हैं और प्लेंटिफ अगर ये बात साबित कर देता है कि हाँ मेरा जो सूट है जो भी मैं सूट है वो टाइम पीरियड के अंदर है, और अगर इस बात का खंडन करना चाहता है डिफेंडेंट देन उस चीज़ का बर्डन फिर डिफेंडेंट पे आता है, लेकिन इनिशियली प्लेंटिफ पर ही साबित करने का भार है। Now, limitation as against a defendant. The plea of limitation can be raised only as against the plaintiff and not as against the defendant. सिर्फ plaintiff के against में ही आप limitation की plea raise कर सकते हैं, defendant के against plea raise नहीं करी जा सकती. Now, when the plea of limitation can be raised? At any stage of the case, be it an appeal, be it in at the time of hearing of case, be it फर्स्ट अपील बी सेकेंड अपील, एट एनी स्टेज ऑफ द केस लिमिटेशन का प्ली रेस किया जा सकता है। लेकिन बट अगर वो किसी लेटर स्टेज पर रेस करा जा रहा है, आपने उसको इनिशियली यानी अर्लियर अपॉर्चुनिटी पे रेस ना करते हुए कभी बाद में रेस करा, तो कोर्ट उसे एंटरटेन नहीं करेगा और उसको अलाउ नहीं करेगा जब दो टाइप के क्वेश्चंस इन्वॉल्व होते हैं। फर्स्टली जब आपको किसी तथ्य के क्वेश्चन पे यानी फैक्ट के क्वेश्चन पे आपको कुछ फर्दर इंक्वायरी करनी है या फिर आपको एविडेंस लेने पड़ रहे हैं उसके डिसीजन के लिए। What it means is the plea of limitation can be raised at any stage of the case, be it a first appeal, चाहे first appeal में, चाहे second appeal में, चाहे hearing of the case में, कभी भी। लेकिन but the court cannot entertain or will not entertain it at a later stage, not at the court though would entertain at an earlier stage, but if you are raising the plea at a later stage, then in these, if the question involves these two things, which are further inquiry into the question of fact, or secondly taking of evidence for his decision, then in these two cases the court will not allow plea of limitation to be raised at a later stage. Suppose, for example, if there is an agreement between the parties for a shorter or extended period of limitation, there is a period as prescribed in the schedule, and if the parties has already made an agreement that for any particular thing we will be admitting or we will be considering period to be shorter than what is prescribed or period to be greater or longer than what has been prescribed. So what will be the effect of that agreement? So if the agreement contains a clause that we will be opting for a shorter period of limitation rather than the period which has actually been prescribed by the schedule, then in such agreement shall be void as per section 28 of the Indian Constitution, 28 of the Indian Contract Act, which means that section 28 actually states that restraint of the legal proceedings, and as per that agreement will be void. And if the agreement contains a clause of extending the period of limitation beyond the period which has been actually prescribed by the schedule, then that agreement will also be invalid as per section 23 of the Indian Constitution Act, as it forbids the criteria, the objective which the legislature has intended to be followed. जो भी मैंने बताया वो क्या बताया कि अगर कोई पार्टीज़ है जिनके बीच में एग्रीमेंट किया गया है, जहाँ पर पार्टीज़ ने ऐसा एग्रीमेंट कर लिया कि भैया जो हमारा पीरियड माना जाएगा लिमिटेशन एक्ट में जो भी पीरियड दे रखा हो स्केड्यूल में, लेकिन हम आपस में ऐसा एग्रीमेंट करते हैं कि ऐसा करार करते हैं कि हमारे लिए लिमिटेशन पीरियड जो भी होगा वो कम होगा या फिर वो बड़ा होगा। तो अगर हम छोटा टाइम पीरियड के लिए लिमिटेशन एग्रीमेंट कर रहे हैं जितना भी शेड्यूल में दिया है उसको ना ध्यान में रखते हुए उससे छोटे टाइम पीरियड के लिए अगर हम एग्रीमेंट कर रहे हैं तो वो एग्रीमेंट सेक्शन 28 इन भारतीय संविदा एक्ट के तहत वॉइड होगा। और अगर हम कह रहे हैं कि हमारा एग्रीमेंट हमने बड़े टाइम पीरियड के लिए कर दिया, मानो लिमिटेशन एक्ट में जो टाइम पीरियड दे रखा है उससे भी ज़्यादा के टाइम के लिए हमने कह दिया कि लिमिटेशन चलेगी, तो ये भी इनवैलिड एग्रीमेंट है, जो कि सेक्शन 23 इंडियन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन एक्ट के तहत इनवैलिड होगा, इंडियन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन एक्ट के तहत इनवैलिड होगा। क्योंकि अगर हम इसे अलाउ कर देंगे तो हमारे लॉ के पीछे का जो ऑब्जेक्टिव है, जो हमारे प्रोविजन जिस लेजिस्लेचर ने जो बनाया है उसको डिफीट करता है ये। नाउ द ऑपरेशन ऑफ द एक्ट. Firstly, the operation of act should be retrospective in general, but if the retrospective operation disturbs or impairs a vested right, that is, if a subsequent law curtails the period of limitation which has been previously allowed, then the retrospective construction should not be made, and the law should be made as applicable in general as a date or as on the date of institution of the suit or proceedings, unless there is a distinct provision to the contrary. यानी कि हम बेसिकली एक्ट को रेट्रोस्पेक्टिव ऑपरेशन देते हैं, लेकिन अगर कोई नया लॉ आ जाता है जो हमारे प्रीवियसली अलाउड या जितना हमने पहले लिमिटेशन पीरियड अलाउड थी उससे कम कोई पीरियड ऑफ लिमिटेशन प्रिस्क्राइब कर रहा है, या फिर हमारे एग्जिस्टिंग या वेस्टेड राइट को जो कर्टेल यानी ख़त्म करता हो, तो ऐसा इंटरप्रिटेशन हम नहीं देंगे। और लॉ कौन सा एप्लीकेबल होगा, तो जनरली जिस दिनांक पर आपने वाद या अन्य कार्रवाई संस्थित करी है तो उस दिनांक को हम मानेंगे कि जो लॉ एप्लीकेबल होगा वो ही एप्लीकेबल माना जाएगा, अनलेस कोई कॉन्ट्ररी या कोई डिस्टिंक्ट प्रोविजन अलग कुछ कहता हो तो। नाउ द एक्ट, whether it is exhaustive or not. So actually this act is complete in itself and it is exhaustive in respect of the matters which has been specifically dealt with it. What I am trying to say is that in schedule we have been prescribed a period of limitation, certain period of limitation for certain suits, appeals and applications. And with respect to those suits, those appeals, those applications which has been specifically covered in the act, this act is actually complete and exhaustive. The court should not make any attempt on the basis of an equitable consideration which enhance that period on its own motion. The court must construe this act strictly. But in respect of matters which has been not dealt with by the act, the courts ought to act on the principle that every procedure is to be understood as permissible till it is known that it is prohibited by law. जो ये एक्ट है ये कंप्लीट है अपने आप में, जितनी भी बातें इस एक्ट में जिन सूट्स के बारे में, जिन वाद के बारे में, जिन आवेदन के बारे में, जिन अपीलों के बारे में यहाँ पर शेड्यूल में बात करी गई है, उनके रिस्पेक्ट में ये एक्ट अपने आप में कंप्लीट है। लेकिन ऐसे कोई अन्य मैटर्स जिनके बारे में इस एक्ट ने कुछ नहीं बोला है, वहाँ पर कोर्ट्स उस सिद्धांत को फॉलो करते हैं कि भैया हम ये देखेंगे कि आपका जो प्रोसीजर है वो परमिट करता हो, उसको परमिशन देता हो प्रोसीजर को समझने की, और प्रोहिबिट जब तक कि ये सब पता ना लग जाए कि क्या प्रोहिबिटेड है, तब तक हम ये मानेंगे कि जो भी परमिसिबल प्रोसीजर है वो फॉलो हो। So this was all about the current introductory lecture. There are still some topics which may come in the introductory lecture. For example, the general plan of the act, what is the relation of sections to sections of the act with these schedules. These topics are not very important, but yeah, it's important for create that basic the basic नीव जिसको कहते हैं एक्ट की रखने में, तो वो भी हम डिस्कस करेंगे। वी विल बी डिस्कसिंग दैट एज वेल इन एन अपकमिंग शॉर्ट लेक्चर, और वी माइट बी क्लबिंग इट विद द लेक्चर ऑन द डेफिनेशन क्लॉज ऑफ द लिमिटेशन एक्ट. So stay tuned. Of course, do share, subscribe and like this video, and comment your suggestions, your views about this session, which this lecture. Do share it with your friends so that they can also learn, and you can also press the bell icon on the right side of your screen so that you can get the notification of all the upcoming lectures. Thanks for watching. Thank you.